Welcome to the Transforming Trauma podcast. Transforming Trauma is presented by the NARM Training Institute. I'm your host, Emily Ruth, and I'm so glad you've joined us today. Hi, Transforming Trauma listeners. We're thrilled to share with you that the new NARM book is coming out on July 26th. The Practical Guide for Healing Developmental Trauma using the Neuro Affective Relational Model to address adverse childhood experiences and resolve complex trauma is written by our very own NARM Creator Dr. Laurence Heller and NARM Senior Trainer Brad Kammer. This book is designed to promote personal and collective change. The intention is to make NARM accessible for anyone working with or dealing with complex trauma. Using therapeutic examples and helpful exercises, Brad and Larry demonstrate how NARM can serve as a catalyst to promote healing and post-traumatic growth. Whether you are a mental health or other helping professional, or simply interested in personal growth, we hope you will find this book useful in your professional work and personal healing. The Practical Guide for Healing Developmental Trauma is available for pre-order now on Amazon and other online book retailers. Please visit narmtraining.com/books to stay up to date on the latest news, promotions, and giveaways. Hi, Transforming Trauma listeners. We have a very special episode today. We're going to share an early sneak peek into the new NARM book, The Practical Guide for Healing Developmental Trauma, by NARM Creator Dr. Laurence Heller and NARM Senior Trainer Brad Kammer. Brad will be reading the inspiring introduction to this new book. But before I share with you the sneak peek, I wanted to share a note from the NARM Training Institute to our Transforming Trauma listeners. Thank you all for being a part of our mission at the NARM Training Institute. We believe NARM has something important and unique to contribute to the growing trauma-informed movement. The Transforming Trauma podcast is a central part of our mission to make our approach to healing complex trauma more accessible. Our new book is also part of this mission. Our intention is to make NARM as accessible as possible. The Practical Guide for Healing Developmental Trauma is designed to be directly applicable to the work you do, using many client examples, including 2 chapters with full therapy sessions demonstrating the NARM approach, as well as over 30 self-reflective exercises and takeaway skills. The intention is to help you in applying NARM to your work and life. This book is designed to be a useful resource for anyone working with or wanting to heal from complex trauma. We are so excited to share it with you.
This book is written to support personal and collective change. It is an exciting time to be part of the trauma-informed movement. Over the past decade, awareness of trauma has moved beyond psychology and gone mainstream. Trauma has become a theme for blogs, articles, podcasts, songs, documentaries, movies, and TV shows, as well as a cause for celebrities, politicians, and social movements. A greater understanding of the widespread impact of trauma, especially complex trauma, is upending and revolutionizing mental health and other healthcare and social systems. While it is daunting and often heartbreaking to recognize the impact on individuals, communities, and societies, we believe that a greater understanding of complex trauma and tools to resolve it can change our world. The Neuro Affective Relational Model, NARM, was introduced over a decade ago in the book Healing Developmental Trauma. This seminal work continues to remain popular as one of the first books specifically designed to address the emerging field of developmental trauma. Thanks to the Adverse Childhood Experiences, ACEs study, and the new diagnosis of complex post-traumatic stress disorder, CPTSD, the trauma-informed field is growing rapidly. As awareness of complex trauma grows, therapeutic models to address the impact of ACEs and CPTSD are needed. NARM is one such model. For the past few years, we, NARM Creator Dr. Laurence Heller, and Training Director and Senior Faculty Brad Kammer, have been focused on building a professional training institute, the NARM Training Institute. Our mission is to evolve and promote trauma-responsive education, training, and treatment for healing complex trauma. This includes addressing the long-term impact of relational trauma that comes in the form of attachment, developmental, cultural, and intergenerational trauma. We have trained thousands of helping professionals internationally and provide ongoing education, training, consulting, and support to individuals and organizations around the world. Our intention for this practical guide is to promote greater accessibility to the NARM Therapeutic Approach. We have done our best to take a comprehensive clinical model that requires years of professional training and present it in a way that supports ease of application. While mental health professionals may find it easier to apply, we have written it in a way that supports application for helping professionals working with the impact of complex trauma. We have written this for those of you who work as doctors, nurses, alternative medical professionals, substance abuse and addiction counselors, body workers, coaches, religious and spiritual counselors, educators, first responders, police officers, social workers, probation and correction officers, policymakers, and anyone else whose work is impacted by complex trauma. Our heartfelt desire is that NARM will support the work you are all doing to heal our world. Additionally, we wrote this as a practical guide for those of you who are seeking personal healing and growth. While NARM has its foundations in advanced psychological theory, this book provides a pathway to anyone interested in post-traumatic healing and growth. Transforming trauma patterns can lead to decreased suffering, increased hope and resiliency, and greater fulfillment in life. Whether you are a helping professional or an individual interested in healing, we hope that you will be able to use what you learn in this book for your professional and personal development. NARM is not just a clinical model for resolving complex trauma. It's a blueprint for supporting relational health. By introducing a depth-oriented, somatic-based approach for shifting the psychobiological adaptations to complex trauma, we aim to provide listeners with a greater understanding of what is driving human pain and suffering. This relational framework is based on a foundation of heartfulness. By introducing more individuals and organizations to NARM, we hope to contribute to a less pathologizing, more humane framework for supporting connection, health, and aliveness. While traditional psychological and neuroscientific understanding is consistent with the NARM approach, there is much work to do in bringing greater compassion to the application of psychological and neuroscientific methods. The roots of NARM. NARM builds upon the pioneers that came before and draws on a variety of approaches, including models from within Western psychology, as well as non-Western approaches to the human experience. From within Western psychology, NARM follows the lineage of depth-oriented, relationally focused, and somatically informed psychotherapeutic models, and has integrated aspects of psychodynamic and somatic approaches. Additionally, we acknowledge and appreciate those theories and theorists who are less well-known, those from outside of traditional psychology, and those whose contributions have been minimized or ignored. We have both participated in learning from different cultural, religious, and spiritual traditions, and acknowledge the wellspring of traditional wisdom and healing practices that have inspired and shaped our approach. Throughout the evolution of NARM, the intention has been to offer a therapy that people would feel is respectful, refined, effective, and transformative. In order to support such an approach, we have integrated a focus on relationship, personality, emotions, and the body that is consistent with the developing understanding of neurobiology. NARM specifically aligns with the growing field of interpersonal neurobiology. Over the past few decades, at least in the United States, these approaches have been largely eclipsed by cognitive and behavioral models. While these models certainly have a role to play in mental health treatment, there are risks involved with losing depth-oriented approaches. Moving away from depth-oriented models means moving away from understanding the complexity and nuances of the human experience. We see some current psychological models, while well-intentioned, to be further pathologizing, objectifying, and dehumanizing of individuals who are suffering and desperate for help. Despite developments in some areas within psychology, we are still profoundly stuck in old paradigms that have outlived their usefulness. The medicalization and subsequent pathologizing of human suffering has kept us preoccupied with treating symptoms and diagnoses, as opposed to recognizing root causes in treating the human. NARM advocates a shift away from a disease model to a focus on relational health. Bringing a humanistic perspective reinforces that we are not simply treating maladaptive symptoms and behaviors, but connecting with a human being. We're not working with objects, we're working with a subject. The subject is an individual's whole self. Those who have experience with non-Western healing approaches have pointed out the similarity of NARM to the shamanic perspective on soul loss, in which the soul fragments in response to a traumatic experience and leads to pain and suffering. The work of soul retrieval is to bring these fragmented parts of the soul back together. By reconnecting fragmented inner states, physical sensations, emotions, impulses, behaviors, and thoughts, NARM reinforces a deepened experience of one subjectivity. When these aspects of the self are invited back into awareness, they create something greater than the sum of its parts. In this way, NARM is not just about post-traumatic healing, but about transformation of the self. This takes us into territory where psychology merges with spirituality. In fact, the Greek root of the word psychology, psyche, originally meant soul. As we begin to work on the deeper levels of human experience, we need a new way of understanding and tools for working with the deeper aspects of the self, with a capital S. We are following a long tradition within psychology, as well as various religious and sacred traditions, that uses self to acknowledge the spiritual nature of who we are. This takes us beyond our identity, who we take ourselves to be, into a greater sense of wholeness. In this journey of transformation, there are opportunities for connecting with deeper sources of our aliveness. This is an opportunity for becoming more fully human. The spiritual journey of post-traumatic growth is reinforced by the phenomenological-based approach of NARM, the emphasis on subjective experience and working in the now. Other elements from depth and somatic-oriented approaches give us access to aspects of the self that are deeper than the mind and body. When done proficiently, therapy has the potential for being an embodied, spiritual process of radical healing and transformation. Lastly, we want to express our gratitude to the many thousands of clients and students we have worked with who have taught us so much. We know that the healing journey of complex trauma is not easy. It takes courage. We have been repeatedly touched by the transformation we continue to see in our clients and students. We are honored, humbled, and inspired to have played a part in their healing as they reclaim their lives. It is our hope and desire that the Neuro Affective Relational Model can similarly support you and your clients.
Thanks to Brad for sharing that introductory chapter from the Practical Guide to Healing Developmental Trauma. We are all excited for it to come out and to share it with you. I continue to be personally so moved by the NARM model and the energy with which Larry and Brad share the wisdom they've discovered through their years of work and the process of writing this book. The book will be released on July 26th. It is currently available for pre-order on Amazon and other online retailers, and we encourage you to order your copy now. For more information, check out www.narmtraining.com/books. As the release date approaches, we are putting together a book launch team comprised of folks in the NARM community who want to help spread the word about the new NARM book. Book launch team members will receive a signed copy of the book and will be invited to an exclusive Q&A event with the authors. If you are interested in being a part of our book launch team, please email us at book@narmtraining.com and we will be in touch. Lastly, you're invited to join us on Tuesday, July 26th at 10 a.m. Pacific Time and help us celebrate during our virtual book launch party. If you're likely to attend, you can RSVP at www.narmtraining.com/book launch party. Thanks so much for joining us for today's episode. To find more about our guest and their work, check the show notes or visit us at narmtraining.com/transformingtrauma. The Practical Guide for Healing Developmental Trauma is available for pre-order now on Amazon and other online book retailers. Please visit narmtraining.com/books to stay up to date on the latest news, promotions, and giveaways. Thanks to Andrea Klunder and the Creative Imposter Studios for producing and editing, to Tori Essex for our album art, and to Brad Kammer for the creation of this podcast. We look forward to building community, connection with you, and changing the world by transforming trauma.